You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
And yes, we are live. And it's great to be joined again by Ethan. Thank you for joining me, Ethan. We are joined today on a new platform, Scottish Football Zone YouTube. So please like and subscribe to that. We really enjoy being on that platform, and hopefully we can grow over a few weeks, Ethan.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed the sort of the group that we've got here that on the streams, and yeah, it's really great to have that platform to talk about Scottish football, because that's what everyone in this country loves doing. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be on with you. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. First of all, we'll just go back in terms of the order there. Celtic played at 4:30 against St Mirren. In terms of the match, what did you make of it?
Yeah, it was a good match. I think a lot of things in the opening 5 games of the season so far have pointed towards a good season on the horizon. Some really competitive matches between teams that you would expect competitive matches, but entertaining matches at that. And the Celtic one today, St Mirren, posed Celtic a lot of problems, and Celtic, I think the phrase that's being used is had to huff and puff to get that goal with the Luke McCowan late deflected strike in the 87th minute, I think it was. So yeah, St Mirren really defended well. You know what you're going to get with a Stephen Robinson team. They're physical, they're big. I think that's the way that he sets them up. That's the way he likes his teams, and he's very good at getting the best out of that and utilising them to their strengths. That's why I think he quoted it in his post-match comments that they've obviously the last 3 seasons been in the top 6, and they're the only team to do that outside of Celtic and Rangers. So he'll be wanting to keep up that streak, and the signs today definitely showed that they could maybe do that again, because they did play very well, although Celtic did probably create enough across the match to deserve the goal, and then they got it at the end. And yeah, it was a good take from Luke McCowan.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you in terms of the match. In terms of the first half, I thought it was a pretty drab affair. Celtic tried their best to score, but I thought St Mirren dealt with that pretty well.
Yeah, they did. There was a few chances, but for the most part, St Mirren looked quite comfortable. Celtic, I didn't think played badly, but they just didn't play with that sort of crisp sort of play that they started last season with, especially. I think the start of last season was possibly the best football we've seen from Celtic under Brendan Rodgers in any period of him being there. I know it didn't translate into a treble across the season or whatever, but they started the season very well. Obviously had that great start until they played Aberdeen, of course, at home, where it was the draw. But yeah, I think Celtic is going to be a slow start this season. They've not brought in enough players, I don't think. Obviously, there's still time to bring in players, but yeah, when you're starting Yang on the wing, I think Yang's he's possibly got something to offer at Celtic, but I don't think he should be starting the first game of the season, personally.
Yeah, I think in terms of Celtic, it shows you that they need a lot of players in. I think they need possibly 5 players in, because I know people were saying about Tierney and that his first match, Ethan, but I thought he looked tired, possibly after the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think Tierney looked at moments in the first half, I think, like he was playing he was better than what he was playing against, and no disrespect to St Mirren, of course, but Kieran Tierney looked like a player that's kind of playing at a level that's quite comfortable for him. And then in the second half, he comes off kind of strangely, and everyone's in the stadium looked to be looking about to see why is he be taken off? Is it an injury or is it precautionary? But I imagine Celtic will be taking no chances with him. They probably spoke to him and said, if you feel any strain, you feel any slight niggle, then you tell us and you're off, because ultimately he's the only out-and-out left-back at the club at the moment, and if he's to get injured, then Celtic are going to have to play a central defender there, and they obviously did have to do that for the remainder of the game. Austin Trusty came on, moved to left centre-back, Liam Scales out to left-back. So Celtic really need to sign in that position because they can't be playing centre-backs at left-back. It's quite simple, really. I know Liam Scales can play there, and he has before, but it's not his strongest position, and Celtic shouldn't be looking to that as an option.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you as well, even in terms of the overall picture, I thought St Mirren done pretty well. They'll be pretty satisfied with the work that they've done in the match. Obviously, they'll be disappointed at the end, but I think there's still a lot of positives there for Stephen Robinson.
Definitely, yeah. Massive positives to take from the game, from their point of view. You always know what you're going to get with St Mirren, but it's all well and easy saying that, but they've actually got to turn up and put in the work, and they did today. There's Robbie tuning in. But yeah, they put in a really good shift, and on another day they could have very easily taken a point from that game. I don't think they really created enough to win. They had a few breakaways. The Smith chances Robbie's just mentioned there late on. But yeah, I think you know what you're going to, as I said, you know what you're going to get with Stephen Robinson's team. But you see them lining up at the start of the match. They're a big, strong, imposing team. Apart from young Fraser Taylor, the midfielder, who is, well, his size is under the rest of his teammates. But apart from him, all the other players were a good 6 foot and over by the looks of it. And then you for the second half, at half time, Taylor comes off. I think he was a doubt coming into the game, so that's possibly why he came off at half time. And Jonah Younger comes on at half time, who's no sort of small guy either. So yeah, they really caused problems for Celtic in that physical way, and that they're gonna what can I say? They're gonna give you a hard time. They're gonna run for every ball. They're gonna make it difficult for you. And they pressed Celtic at points. They dropped off Celtic when they needed to, and they almost perfected it. It was just unfortunate that goal obviously goes into the end, and they take nothing from the game, but they'll take a lot of confidence into next week's game at home to Motherwell.
I think that's a great point you make in terms of St Mirren, you know what you're going to get with them, and that's not going to change this season, and it proves again today. Yeah,
exactly. Why? I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Is always the saying. So yeah, Robbie's. I thought he was. I didn't think he was injured in the game. I thought he was carrying a knock going into the game. I thought I seen something about that, but I must have been, I don't know, making stuff up. But I don't think he had the best game. But I think the substitutions are a really positive one, and shows Stephen Robinson has the ambition that he's telling his players, right, we're going to bring a striker on for a midfielder. And I know he didn't really change the setup in that way, but it shows that he's making ambitious substitutions and believes that his players can go on and win that game. And I mean, they very well could have done, but I think Celtic just had too much in the end and probably deserved to nick that goal at the end.
I think just finally, I think Robbie made a good point on Friday's show. He said that St Mirren are recruiting very well, and I think you can see that again today. I think they've got a lot of good players in their team. They're very solid, they're very aggressive, and I think they'll be a very good match for any team in Scotland this season.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there'll be any easy points taken off them. Obviously, they got Idowu and Phillips permanently, which they had last season. Then the two new signings that were in the starting 11, King and Richardson, kind of just slotted in like Stephen Robinson's signings do. Kind of players come and go, but the success of the starting 11 always seems to be the same when it comes to Stephen Robinson, and that's why he's in such high regard amongst St Mirren supporters, but across the league, because he keeps pulling out these successful seasons. obviously 3 top 6 finishes speaks for itself, but I think he'll want even more this season.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the weekend of draws, Ethan, in terms of that's what I'm going to tailor it until the very last minute. But I think Celtic showed a great result. I thought James Forrest came on and did really well when he came on. I felt Yang didn't offer much in the game, and in terms of Ida, I think there's a few times in the first half where Tierney put a great ball across. He just didn't really latch onto it. But I think in general, I think Celtic really showed their quality at the end.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Yang, he just didn't really show enough when he was on the pitch, and I think he was always going to be the first substitution to come off. I know it's an obvious one because James Forrest is the only winger on the bench, and usually the first subs any manager makes is wingers when you're playing a 4-3-3 especially. So it wasn't a surprise to see James Forrest come on, but I thought James Forrest was really positive. I know it didn't always work out the best for him, and I even seen some Celtic fans saying they don't want to see James Forrest play for Celtic again, but I thought he was partly the difference today, and he created some really good moments for Celtic and done a lot more than what Yang did when he was on the pitch. So, yeah, Celtic definitely need more wingers. They need at least one winger, and if not two, then I think they need 2 attackers if they're going to get maybe a striker and a winger, or 2 wingers if you're moving Daisen Maeda and as a striker, and a left back obviously as well. I think that's the positions Celtic definitely need. On top of that, then you could probably strengthen the squad, but I think that's the bare minimum Celtic need before the end of August.
I would say after today, Robbie, that Celtic 2, because I wasn't impressed at all with Yang, and I was actually going into Celtic Park today, and I managed to bump into Tilio, and Tilio was on his tracksuit. So it just shows you that Brendan Rodgers has got a winger on the books, and he still doesn't play him. So I think Celtic as a club need 2 wingers, Robbie.
I mean, I thought.
Sorry, we're having a bit of Wi-Fi issues with Robbie there. I don't know if you're getting the same.
No, I think it might just be microphone. I could see what you were saying, but it just wasn't.
Better now?
Yeah, that's better, Robbie. That's perfect.
Yeah, me,
Oh, anyway, I'm sure Robbie will be back in a minute, but yeah, I think Celtic with Tilio, I think it's a strange one that they're holding on to him, even though they'd agreed, which looks on the face of it a really good deal for all parties. He gets to go out to Rapid Vienna, which is a good sized club across Europe, and Celtic get a good fee for him for a loan to obligation to buy. So that looked like one you would try and get over the line, that Celtic hold on to him and until more wingers come in. It is strange because if they're not going to have him in the squad, then what's the point in holding on to him? But yeah, I think Celtic attackers is definitely what Celtic need, because I think today the defenders, the back 4 that started the match, and then Austin Trusty that came on, I thought they were all solid. I thought Liam Scales, I know he's not the most popular among Celtic support, but I thought he had a great game. And I thought Austin Trusty was really solid when he came on as well.
I found any better, guys.
Yeah, that's better, Robbie.
Yeah, 100%. No, sorry, just as I was saying, I don't think Celtic did great enough in terms of the wingers. I thought Tierney had a good first half. I believe he had the most touches out of any player in the first half. But for me, like, as much as Celtic dominated the ball and had a lot of possession, created a lot of chances, that's nowhere near the standard that Celtic should be at. I thought they were really slow progressing the ball forward. I thought, of course, credit to Munn and Steve Robinson for sticking in and defending well. But to me, that wasn't a vintage Celtic performance by any means. I thought they actually got quite lucky to run out with the 1-0 win. Although, obviously, they created many of the chances. I thought St Mirren, on another day, I think I mentioned the comments of the Ocean Smith chance. I mean, he's just about to score that. I think both commentators said at the time as well. It's one of the best chances you're going to get, I think, at Celtic Park. So clear cut inside the box. But look, Celtic, do what Celtic do best, and I'm sure we'll go into touch on Rangers later, but that's something that Rangers can't do. That Rangers don't have the fight to go and win a game like that, whereas Celtic can get that bit of extra firepower and go and get it done.
I don't know if you guys have heard Brendan Rodgers, but has he mentioned any possibility of getting maybe 2 wingers in or after the game?
I don't think so, but I think I'm sure you used to, and all of the viewers have seen his comments from the other day, and it made it pretty clear what he believes Celtic need, and sort of hinting at the board. And yeah, you were wondering whether today, how late he made some of the substitutions, as to whether he was kind of saying, I've not got what I need to win games here. And of course, Celtic have a financially a squad levels ahead of St Mirren even just now, but he seemed to be sort of making the gestures that up to the back of the main stand, that I need signings here, I need new attackers in, and obviously Celtic got the job done. Like McCowan comes off the bench and gets the goal, but on another day, as Robbie said, that easily could have finished nothing each, and Celtic would have been down towards the bottom half of the league. So yeah, I know it doesn't really matter at this point, but it would feel like a massive missed opportunity to go towards the top of the table if they didn't get that goal.
See, when we first came on, Robbie, I mentioned even about Adam Ida. What's your thoughts on him? Because I think he's okay, Robbie, but I don't think he's a great number 9 to start week after week. I think he's great for coming off the bench, maybe scoring a goal, but I don't think he's like a Kyogo or like a Edward, but you can rely on him every game.
No, I don't think he'd exploited the defence enough. There was one time, I think it was just at the beginning of this first half, and a ball comes to the right-hand side through Johnston, and Ida really cut through the defence, really quite nice, and does an overlap and run. He's caught offside, but I just don't think he does that enough. You see guys like Diogo in his Celtic career making that run every time, and it worked. And, Alistair Johnson, Greg Taylor, when he used to play, would get it through to Kyogo or whoever else it was up front. But I just don't think Ida provides that. And to ask you guys a question, then obviously Ida didn't score today. You have a guy on the bench like Shin Yamada, who's your new signing that's come in. What do you think that says about him, that he didn't even manage to go on the pitch in a game that Celtic desperately needed to score a goal in?
I don't think Brendan Rodgers trusts him. And I said that on Friday, Robbie, and I just don't think Brendan Rodgers trusts these new players that have been brought in. I think the only one that he trusts is Nygren. But I want to get your thoughts on him, because I'm not really sure. And I'm not really sure if he dislodges Engels from the starting team. I don't know if you agree, Robbie. Or...
I like Nygren. I was impressed with him today. I thought he was a real creative spark in the midfield. To be honest, one of the only ones I really spotted in the game. But he's got quite a good bit of pace about him. I like him. He can dribble quite nice as well with the ball. He was taking a lot of Celtic set pieces as well, but obviously will be a bonus if he can hit them well. So I don't know if he could replace Engels. Obviously Engels wasn't in the starting 11 today. For whatever reason, Rodgers decided not to pick him for this game. But it'll be a good battle this season, I think.
Yeah, I think just to touch on the last few points that you guys made, I'll just touch on the Nygren one. I thought in moments today he showed his sort of quality, because I think Celtic got him for around, it was under 2 million euros, but his actual valuation is probably, if he was under a good contract at his club back in Denmark, you'd probably be looking at maybe up to 10 to pay for him, or at least 5 at the very least. He's Celtic have got him pretty cheap, and a lot of people thought he would be the sort of Nicholas Kuhn replacement. Obviously in pre-season he's played in midfield, and he's kind of dislodged Arne Engels in that starting 11. Today I don't think he played his best game, but I don't think any of the sort of, if you look at the front 5 Celtic players, I'm including McGregor as a sort of defensive player. I thought Cal McGregor was the best player on the pitch. It's not really, it comes as a surprise anymore, but I thought Rio Hatate, his game wasn't as neat as it could be. Same with Nygren. I thought Nygren, at some point, especially in the first half, his set pieces were okay, but the second half they were terrible. There was consecutive corners where he wasn't beating the first man, and Celtic had a problem with corners. They were taking them short. They didn't know what they were doing. throw-ins. There was a couple throw-ins on the left-hand side. I don't know if you remember in the second half where there wasn't even any Celtic players showing for the ball, and it was
I remember.
It was.
Can I just
Yeah,
say that was the first time I've watched a Celtic team at Celtic Park, and they've really struggled to adapt to a game. Really struggled at points during the first and second half. I thought, as Ethan mentioned, with set pieces, Celtic looks quite stunned at not being able to break through at points. I thought them trying to break in the back five, and I think that was the main point I took for the game. We're so used to seeing Celtic eventually being able to break these sides down in the back fives, and I know they eventually did get the goal, but I don't think it was to really be considered breaking the back five down. It did take a deflection, but that is the first time I've watched a Celtic team, and they have really struggled to break down a structure in a game, especially at home.
See, me analysing it, I think it's because Brendan Rodgers mentioned it on Friday. Brendan Rodgers' Celtic sides thrive on white players. And you look at back to the teams he's had, like Patrick Roberts, Scott Sinclair, even look back to last season with Jota and Maeda and Nicholas as well, who's obviously away to Como, James Forrest before him as well. So Celtic really thrive in white players. And I just think right now they struggle to have a really good white player. I mean, I like Yang, but if you look at him, I think the only time he's done really well is when Celtic are maybe two or three up and there's maybe less pressure on him, because he's never really come onto a game where you think, well, he's really made sure that we get the 3 points today.
Yeah, I would agree. Yang and James Forrest. James Forrest, obviously a Celtic legend, but I think if you ask Celtic fans, he wouldn't be your ideal sort of 50-50 option to start a game at the start of the season, and Yang would be the same. I think Yang has shown in points. One of the games that really comes to mind was the last Celtic St Mirren game in Paisley. I thought he came off the bench and he was brilliant in that match. And there was another game in the Champions League, he came off the bench against Leipzig and he was brilliant. He showed in points, but he's just not shown enough. I think possibly a loan move for him would be enough, but would help his development. But Celtic can't afford to loan him out because they're having to start him because they've not signed any wingers. So yeah, it's really strange. That another point, I don't know if I mentioned this right at the start of the show, but I want your guys' opinion on it. I think Celtic were playing today in a more way where they're trying to play to Adam Ida's strengths. Obviously, Kyogo's strengths are running in behind, sort of playing off the last defender, whereas Adam Ida's a big figure who's going to try and win balls in the air, headers, kind of outmuscle people. When Celtic were putting a lot of crosses from deep into the box, Kieran Tierney put in a few good balls that Ida got on the end of a few, and they weren't easy chances, but there were ones that he maybe could have scored. So I think that might be something to do with the reason why Celtic were so sluggish, if you could call it that, in their play, because maybe Celtic or Brendan Rodgers has decided that Adam Idah is going to be the main striker, and Celtic are obviously going to need to play his strengths. And another reason why I think it might be why Johnny Kenny came on before Shin Yamada, because Johnny Kenny, not the sort of stature of Adam Idah, but Shin Yamada is quite a small striker. So then you're having to switch up the whole way of playing, and I'm not sure. But the Johnny Kenny over Shin Yamada, it could be down to lack of Shin Yamada being up to speed. He has only played 45 minutes of Celtic's pre-season, so could be down to that.
I think it's also what Robbie said about Brendan Rodgers sending a message to the board.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
The other point that is as well is that if Brendan Rodgers is not going to play these players, then the board need to make sure they're getting the proper quality of player. And just finally, Robbie, is there any point you want to make on St Mirren before we move on to a different game?
I will look at. I thought we were excellent today. There's honestly not much more I can say. The pitch we were superb. With our Stoughton boys coming into the box, I thought Richardson and specifically Declan John done a really, really good job at Stoughton Celtic getting balls into the box, and whenever they did, I think there was one in the second half where Alistair Johnson is in the right hand side that plays into the box and it falls right to Jamal George, and I'm pretty sure Chris Sutton had a big go at Johnson for that because it was just really poorly put in. Again, it looked like Celtic were a bit thunderstruck, but It was amazing because it was a really good performance. It's one we can build on. Sorry, just quickly on Ethan's point about Ida. That wasn't the type of game for me where the Celtic should be firing long balls for deep. You're playing against a big sort of unit, a back three. First at Murn, it's not a game where I don't think Celtic should be looking to get balls into the box, which is interesting to me, and that's why I think I was a bit more confused when Shin Yamada never came onto the pitch, because that was the type of game where you want a small striker to get in between the back three and really cause a disturbance in there. And it's not something that Rodgers went for. Of course, I'm just giving my opinion. I don't know the half about tactics and stuff that Brendan Rodgers will, but outside looking in, it definitely looks like it was a type of game that Shin Yamada can go in there and make a difference.
Yeah, possibly. I think it was just he maybe thinks about it. I get the point that you're making, but I think he maybe thinks about it the other way, as in the sense that St Mirren are a big, tall, physical team, big, tall back five. Shin Yamada's just going to be out muscled in there and not get a sniff, especially when St Mirren at the start of both halves really kind of sat up quite high in the pitch and were pressing Celtic, and then naturally slowly went back to the low block, of course, as you would with Celtic having most of the ball. So by the time maybe Yamada comes on, it's not really the game to be running in behind, but it did open up at points in the second half. Obviously the Smith chance, Celtic counter-attack off the back of that, and Daisen Maeda had a really good one-on-one to score, and I think it's you can probably tell me how to say his name better, Robbie, but Sobowale.
As far as I've gathered, it's Sobowale, I think.
Sobowale, yeah, that sounds a lot better, but I mean, an absolutely immense recovery and block. Yeah, because not many people catch Daisen Maeda, but yeah, that was brilliant, I thought.
Professional for that distance.
Yeah.
I mean, we should probably move on to another game now. And I want to move on to Rangers now because I was interested yesterday. I got my chocolate biscuits. I got everything ready to watch this game. And I was just thinking, this is going to be a cracker. Rangers are going to get fired out. But I was really surprised with Rangers, Robbie.
I was very surprised by Rangers as well, but I'm also pleasantly surprised by Motherwell. That's the first time I've got to see them. That's the first time I've got to see them in action, and I've never been so happy watching a team try to play at the back against Rangers. It was brilliant to watch. It usually, every time you watch one of these teams, and we're victims of doing it as well, it's always try to go for the long ball and try to make it uncomfortable for Rangers in the defence. But Motherwell was trying to pickpocket one-way passes through the midfield. The Rangers, it was brilliant. There was one, I can't remember when it was in the first half. I think it was Watt picks up the ball in the midfield. It just plays a blinder right through Raskin and Rothwell, right through the midfield, and cuts right through them. I've never seen a team outside of Celtic do that at Rangers. It was brilliant. I thought, look, Motherwell deserved the 3 points in the end. They didn't get it, but a draw's still a good result for them. Russell Martin, there's been a lot of discussion sort of going on the past 24 hours about his post-match comments. I completely agree with him. I love the honesty for him. I don't know about you guys.
Robbie, I've heard the BBC, I've heard Sky Sports, I've heard Clyde, I've heard all the stations talk about it. But who was Russell Martin talking about? Because nobody spoke about it. But I want to speak about it because I think he's talking about Tavernier.
I don't know. It's really hard to tell because quite clearly for the Longello, is it, or Longello? It's a brilliant, really well made goal by him. Obviously, he makes the initial run. It kind of he's on the floor. It kind of comes back to him. It's a really great strike. But the defending to get to that position where he kind of runs through Kieran Dibble and James Tavernier, and it's like that kind of Tavernier puts a tackle on him, and it's like kind of that when you're told when you're younger you need to go in full force, so they'll just kind of go through you, and Tavernier just kind of dangles in a leg, and he just runs right through both of them, and then Kieran Dibble's just standing there in the box, just not marking anybody, and I think.
Just say, by the way, see on that goal, right? See if you go and watch that back. Tavernier gets skinned, runs back to De Jigger, pushes De Jigger forward to try and go and get the ball, leaving himself with a Motherwell player and leaves the guy on side for the goal. Like, what is Tavernier thinking? That's but just go out and push the guy.
Yeah.
And also, Martin spoke about it, for people that didn't see it. He says too many players have got big egos. Who do you think he's talking about there, Robbie?
I think you could pinpoint a few players in the squad, honestly. And I don't think it's look, it's hard to sort of break down what he's talking about, but I almost feel like it's some of these guys maybe think they can maybe get bigger moves to bigger clubs than they actually can. I feel like these players are trying to play for moves that maybe are a bit ambitious. You know, he also spoke about only getting one transfer offer through the door. Now, what does that tell you? Some of these players are maybe either not wanting to leave the club or demanding maybe too high a fee on them. You know, because there will be discussions backstage, I'm sure.
Possibly could be talking about Raskin as well. Because
Yeah.
don't forget, Raskin's in the Belgium squad as well, so you may be going, Rangers are too big for me, you know?
Yeah, Raskin, and I think I seen somebody saying this, that if he makes the point about players receiving bids and that Cyril Dessers is the only one that the club have received an official bid for, and then he's talking about players having egos, then you can only put two and two together and think that he's maybe talking about the players who the rumours have been circulating. Raskin's one of them. Diamande was linked with moves away, and yeah, you don't know who he's talking about, but he's obviously trying to get a message across early that he's not going to take any nonsense. Unlike the sort of last few Rangers managers, he's not going to sugarcoat it to the media. If you're not doing what he wants to do and you're not doing the bare minimum that he asks, then he'll condemn you in the dressing room, you would imagine, and condemn you to the media. And it's a risky one because you don't know. The dressing room could turn on him very quickly, but at the same time, you could earn the respect of the dressing room of the players that want to fight for Rangers Football Club and want to give their all for Russell Martin, the manager. And then you'll slowly find out the ones who are being left out the starting 11, the ones who are being left out the squad, who are not up to speed. But yeah, I think it's really a really interesting approach, and it's a really nice one to see.
I might say something a little bit controversial here, but surely for Russell Martin, right? He came out yesterday at the end and said the mentality of the club has not been right for years, right? So if he's saying that in his press conference yesterday, surely you don't pick the same person as your captain that has been there for so many years and have not won much trophies. Surely you sit it down there, right? You've been through that for many, many years. And I heard Barry Ferguson say it on a different radio station. He said that, but Tavernier's been there and done it, and maybe he's thinking that he's a great. He possibly could be the main person for it, but I just feel like surely Martin could have put a fresh approach.
Well, this is when it's big for Martin. This game on Tuesday is going to show if he's stuck to his word, because if he goes for a similar same lineup, then let's be honest, he's went back in his word. Martin needs to back up his end point now. This squad has been through too many managers. It's been through Michael Beale, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Philippe Clement, and somehow these players have survived. And let's be fair,
I think you could even go back to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Robbie.
Yeah, and let's be fair, Van Bronckhorst said at the time, and Beale said it a bit as well. They called these players out. Let's not forget that. You know, they weren't protecting these players. They were saying this isn't good enough. Russell Martin saying the same, but the difference I feel now is I think Russell Martin's going to have the ball to be able to drop these guys. I think he is going to make changes when he needs to, and I think he is going to rotate this team, because I think there is players in there that he'll know better than us that aren't good enough. I mean, one player, by the way, how is Kieran Dibble playing 90 minutes again? I do not understand what he sees in Dibble in these game situations. That he might be lighting it up in training for all we know, but when it comes to an actual game of football, he was the first player I looked at and went, you could probably sub him off after 50, 60 minutes and bring on a real attacking play.
Yeah.
I think he mentioned on Friday that he's part of the leader group.
Yeah. He has. He said that at the start. But it is strange because the 3 games now, we've not really seen Kieran Dowell perform well. And I know Russell Martin can, I think I made this point already. Russell Martin can question the mentality of his players, and that's not something that's unfamiliar to Rangers fans or to anyone that's interested in Scottish football. We've seen this from Rangers in league or domestic football for years now. But I think he needs to take responsibility as well, because across the 3 games so far, the 2 Panathinaikos games and the Motherwell game, Rangers haven't been good enough in any of those games to expect to win. I know when they got that goal at home against Panathinaikos, and then Panathinaikos got the red card. They kicked on and played their best stuff so far, but that was against 10 men. The 90 minutes in Athens, they weren't good enough. The first half at Ibrox, they weren't good enough. Against Motherwell, they weren't good enough. If you're not performing well, then you can't expect to get the desired results. They did in the Champions League qualifiers, and I say it's a great trait to have. Celtic done it today, not playing at your best, you get the result. But if you continue to not play at your best, then you're going to get stung eventually, and Rangers got lucky to get a point. He even said that himself. Motherwell should have took all three.
I was going to ask Robbie in terms of, see Robbie, I was looking at it on Tuesday and I'm going, the Rangers are building a decent squad. But see when I watched it yesterday, I'm thinking, see the squad about 2 or 3 years ago with Joe Aribo and people like that. I'm thinking this squad's going backwards. It's not. It's so disjointed. I mean, that centre back Jager, he looks like the new Robin Proper. Then you've got John Sutton, who I'm not 100% certain on all the time. Max Aarons, who they signed from Valencia and Bournemouth, I'm not convincing him. You know, and he's playing Tavernier instead of him right back, and he's not playing Jeff Day. I'm not too certain on Devil, like you said. And I think Rangers overall, I wouldn't say, I was kind of thinking that this squad's getting better, but see when you guys look at it, I don't think the squad's got any better.
No, there's still a lot of work to be done. Obviously, it looks like anyway Ant-Man's going to be completed and he's going to be joining the club soon. I imagine he'll probably slot into the starting 11, but there's still maybe another 3 or 4 signings they need in before they maybe look at a proper team. And look, again, this is only their third competitive match. I don't want to keep making excuses for Rangers because, again, it's no good enough and they need to be better. But maybe it is.
But I think, Robbie, I think the Rangers fans have been missold a bit, because for me, a few weeks ago, you were looking at people like Connor Cody, Jimmy Vardy, people with a bit of excitement. But I'm just looking at this squad and I go, there's nobody that excites me.
You're right. It is worrying for Rangers, and look, we'll find out on Tuesday how much they have been missold, because if the Tuesday lineup comes out and we're on this show and it's the same, near enough the same lineup that started against Motherwell, there'll be questions asked of Russell Martin and his words, because he's came out and he's now put himself into a corner where he needs to make changes now. He's said himself that wasn't good enough, that squad wasn't good enough that he picked himself in the game. So he needs to start making changes now. It's becoming a real pressurised situation already for Martin, which I'm going to be honest, after the first leg against Panathinaikos, I did not think I'd be saying that right now.
Yeah, and I think the damning thing about last night's result for Rangers and performance is that I looked at the face of that squad and thought, okay, they need maybe three new players, wingers especially, maybe another central defender, and a left back, obviously. But some of the sort of decisions that Martin's making would worry you. But the fact that Max Aarons is played pretty poorly, but he's still getting chosen as a left back over Jeff Day, who's sitting there as a natural left back, then that obviously doesn't send a very good message to him. I think he came out and said that Jeff Day needs to be better if he wants to play. That's fair enough. But if someone who's not a natural left back is playing over a left back, then that would tell me you really need a left back. And the other one is Emmanuel Fernandez. Hasn't played a minute yet, signed for £3 million. Don't know what's happening with him. Then you've got more problems than maybe it looks like on the face of it, especially when Russell Martin comes out and says that the players aren't given their all on the pitch, and that's the minimum for any manager. And fair enough, after 3 games, if it's teething problems and under the expansive brand of football he wants to play, that not everything's clicking, that's fair enough, and that's what we've seen in those first 2 games. But if you are questioning the players' commitment to run for Rangers Football Club, then that is a problem that is a lot worse than any sort of teething problem to do with the style.
I just want to ask you, Robbie, see in terms of the style of play, okay, maybe beautiful in the eye, but surely if Motherwell worked it out after 45 minutes, all they need to do is St Mirren, St Johnstone, Celtic, any team, they can look at it and go, this is what the Rangers are going to do week after week. You know, because it was so easy. It was so easy for Motherwell to get chances.
I was just about to say that in terms of on the pitch, you know, this wasn't a case of Rangers played well for 20-25 minutes, and I suppose they did have their wee spells where they looked alright, but Rangers lost the ball for kick-off and nearly conceded after 40 seconds. You know, that is not a great start. There was multiple times as well, and I did say on the show on Friday, if you've got Maswinishi up there, that's Stamatolopoulos, and they're running at the Rangers defence, they might crumble, and they nearly did a few times. There was a couple of times where the Jiga and Suter nearly get caught out because the pace of these strikers. That's all teams are going to do out of Rangers all season. You're just going to see they're going to try and build it for the back. You're going to have the big fast strikers, whatever team you want, up pressing high, and they're going to try and trap Rangers in at the bottom, and it nearly happened in that game a few times.
Yeah, Motherwell were better than Rangers yesterday in every metric almost possible, and you can't sort of say, oh, this is a new Rangers team, we've got a new manager, we're building something here with new players. I believe Motherwell had more new players in the starting 11. They obviously have a new manager under Jens Berfalascu. They are working it out as well, and they just wanted it more than Rangers. They played out from the back better than Rangers. They kept the ball better than Rangers. They pressed better than Rangers. They created bigger chances than Rangers.
Yeah, and by the way, just to add on that, can I say the only reason in that game Rangers got a goal was because of Motherwell mistake. It wasn't anything to do with Rangers doing well. It was Paul McGinn that gave them that goal.
Yeah, it was a poor defending from a set piece to let Tavernier score, and they'll regret that immensely. But yeah.
And I think if you're a Rangers fan, you'd be kind of worried because that was the only sort of chance that Rangers had properly. There wasn't any kind of chances you would go, right, that was a great chance, but I don't know, it's just really strange. And then Russell Martin comes on and says that Dessers really worked hard, and saying that he worked hard in terms of the rest of the players yesterday. I mean, so why did they not play him then? Why did they not play him?
Yeah.
To me, Danilo didn't look like he played. Tried very hard. Sorry, I thought you could have took Danilo off at half time. There would have been no questions asked. He just looked so slow up there. And I suppose to cut him a bit of slack, he's getting no support up there either. You know, these two wingers, and I actually thought Gassama looked alright at points yesterday as well. But I'm looking at, you know, all of the pitching in the midfield. No one's up there supporting Danilo. He's up there by himself, just chasing anything that getting anywhere near him.
Yeah, the Rangers look really, really blunt in attack at the moment, and that's worrying because I know they've scored 4 goals in 3 games. Yeah, 4 goals in 3 games. But if you look at the 2 goals at Ibrox, 2 just wonderful individual moments. Gassama, Finlay Curtis, 2 brilliant strikes from outside the box. A goal from a corner, from a header from a corner. And the other Gassama goal in Athens is another brilliant strike. Okay, that one was that was well worked. I'll give that one. But it's not as if they're creating goals off sustained, brilliant attacking play, and that's concerning for Rangers because Europe's a different question. Europe, obviously, Panathinaikos are a good side, and Rangers got a really good result across the 2 legs against them. But you should be expected to create more chances than Motherwell, and threaten the Motherwell goalkeeper more than Jack Butland's threatened, and that just didn't happen at all. And it is worrying, but it is early in the season, and there's still obviously a lot of time to make up for it. And they've got a massive game on Tuesday, and then I think it's at home to Dundee, which no disrespect to Stephen Presley and Dundee, but that would be one of the games you would want to play if you were looking to get not off the mark completely in the Premiership, because they obviously get a point, but get a win and start in the Premiership.
Robbie, I know it's getting late at the moment, so we'll talk a little bit about Motherwell, and then we'll move on to some other games quickly. But just talk to them about Motherwell because I was so impressed with them.
Really impressive. Again, I thought Motherwell, and again, there's teething issues in their squad as well. I thought it was a couple of times where they nearly get caught at the playing at the back, but overall, I thought they were superb. You know, we speak about Rangers wanting to have midfielders and Celtic wanting to have good attack midfielders. Take Slattery's whole game, right, and if you just look at his highlights alone, that's a type of midfielder Celtic and Rangers want in the attacking sense. He was magnificent, anything that was going up the top end of the pitch. was going through him for the whole game. He was just creating absolutely everything. It was superb. I thought Motherwell really handled themselves brilliantly, and let's be honest, they got unlucky not to win it right at the end. With that chance, with that, I can't remember his name, the guy that ran through. But
Tom Sparrow, I think it was.
Aye, Sparrow. I thought they got unlucky. I thought he probably should have hit it near post, to be honest with you, and I think he would have had Butland beat. But they were superb, and I'm excited because I know obviously we play them next, but I just think for the whole season that's a really exciting Motherwell team. And let's remember that's a Motherwell team that have a new look midfield without Lennon Miller in it, and if Miller is going to be going to Bologna, which I believe is still on, then that's really exciting stuff for Motherwell, and it's something that new manager can build on as well.
Yeah, and the players player of the season, I believe, as well, Andy Halliday, obviously been displaced in the midfield as well. So it shows how much of an impact the new signings have made.
Aye, that's only because he's on BBC during the week talking about how good Rangers are.
Yeah, possibly.
Because I did feel a little bit not happy with it, Robbie. If I'm a Motherwell fan, I'm watching and he's talking about Rangers and he's playing Rangers at the weekend, you'd be a little bit disappointed, you know?
I would be, if I was a Motherwell fan, if it's one of our players on talking about how good Celtic are in the Champions League game before we play them at the weekend, I'd be raging as well. But I just, you know, I don't think I could say much more than just Motherwell were brilliant all game. I thought they pressed Rangers really well. I'm excited to see Meda Slary, especially in person next week. I think he's going to be a real handful for us to try and manage. So it'll be an interesting game, but they look really good as well.
And I think as well, Robbie, I think the buy-in clear from the players is great because I think it's really hard to buy in from the players if you're saying, right, Motherwell play from the back. I mean, Motherwell are no Barcelona, but they clearly showed yesterday that they can do it because I think the attitude, let's say you had I don't know, Stuart McCall or I don't know, a typical Scottish manager to come in and
Stuart Kettlewell.
Well, that would be the kind of the thing. Like, make sure you get the ball up to the striker. Be hard to beat. Wouldn't it be try and be expansive? You know.
Aye, and you've got to credit the players because their minds for that couple of weeks where Vima sort of came in and left the club, and then the new manager came in. Their heads must have been all over the place going into this season. Like, I couldn't imagine what it would have been like to be a player because they're just, you know, that quick change into, you know, different tactics, different players coming in, you know, some of their heads must have been all over the place. So you go and put on that performance in the opening game where, let's be honest, that's their first real big competitive action. It's something that new manager can build on. They've still got a month left of the window, and if they can sell Miller, as I said, bring in a couple of players maybe where the manager feels there needs an upgrade, and that team can really push on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, even, but I was kind of surprised by the way yesterday. Not that I expected Rangers to roll over the top of them, but I did say on Friday 4-0, but I was surprised in a good way, Robbie. Surprised in a good way, even, sorry.
I wasn't as surprised. That actually, if I give away my prediction, I had Motherwell in 7th, so I think that's higher than a lot of people had them. I don't know, I just I have a funny feeling that I really like Naswanise as a player, and I really like Stamatolopoulos as a player. I know he should have scored last night, and I've heard good things about the new midfielders that have come in, and he seems like he has a clear idea of what he wants to do. And yeah, okay, it's one game, so I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to get 7th or they're going to do better than that, but I just think it really highlights that there's a real competitive, and I know we sort of all said this before the season, but I think a lot of the scorelines have backed up. There's a really competitive league this season. There's a lot of teams from the bottom to the top that are really going to run each other close, and that's what we want. We don't want Celtic and Rangers to be battered in every team they come up against. That's not what we want. We want teams to find their own ways of playing and how to run them close, and that's what we found this weekend. Well, obviously Motherwell getting a draw and St Mirren very close to that, and then across the league some really entertaining games as well.
Yeah, so I'm calling this weekend, Robbie, the tale of the draws. See, in terms of the Dundee United and Falkirk match at the Falkirk Stadium, tell us about it, Robbie, because I didn't manage to see it because I was at Celtic Park.
Sorry, I've just jumped in front of Robbie.
No, you go.
All right, okay. I managed to catch the first half of it, and it was a good game. Falkirk done what you would expect, trying to control play, and then they kind of get hurt with Dundee United scoring the only goal. Waters gets it, kind of cross comes in.
Really bad defending for
Yeah,
Falkirk.
yeah, bad defending. The cross comes in, and then Henderson's flat-footed and just gives it up, and then Scott Bain's got no chance with Max Waters striking from there. He hits it well, keeps it down, and Dundee United have the lead, and then Falkirk obviously pull it back with a really nice finish from Tate, and then Dundee United go back ahead again with Dolchek, and then Falkirk find another equaliser with Ethan Ross. But for Falkirk, a brilliant turnout. I think they've sold 6,000 season tickets or something like that, which is brilliant. I know first time back in the league in 15 years, but watching it on Sky, the stadium looked really full and it was really nice to see. The only problem watching it on Sky was that for about half an hour of the first half, the commentary was out of sync with the screen, or the, what would you call it, that I'm losing the word, but the game, it was out of sync with the game, and it just made the experience that little bit worse. But no, it was a really good game from the first half. I never got to watch the second half. I got to catch the highlights, but yeah, really entertaining game, and again, really just a good advert for Scottish football on Sky Sports. Dundee United haven't started the season too well performance-wise, but obviously got the 2 results in the Conference League. But yeah, Jim Goodwin will have to do better than that. But I think John McGlynn will be looking to do better than that as well, because they both have high aspirations, I imagine, this season.
Aye, and it was a really beautiful pitch as well. I actually really enjoyed watching it. It was nice to just look at the pitch itself during the game. But look, there wasn't much in this. It was a really even match contest, and it's one I sort of expected it to be honest with you. Dundee United obviously coming back here, big European result. The performance was a different story, and I think Goodwin knows it's going to need to improve going to Austria in a couple of days. But this was just a good game of football. I think for the first game back in the Premiership, it was always going to be entertaining, no matter who Falkirk were playing. To be honest with you, it's always written to be one of their games, and I actually thought Falkirk moved the ball but quite nice. If that's a sign of the sort of football we're going to be seeing for McGlynn's side, then I'm excited. Obviously, questions are going to be asked about that style of football when you're coming up against maybe better opposition. No, absolutely no disrespect to Dundee United, but if you're playing the likes of Hearts and Hibs and Aberdeen and the rest of it, it's going to be a bit of a different game. But I think there's positives both teams can take. I think Dundee United will probably be, don't want to say made upset, but I just feel like they maybe could have seen the game a bit better, because compared to when they scored and then Falkirk scored, they didn't really hang on for long, so that can be worked on. But it was a decent game.
Robbie, obviously we are back again tomorrow night for the Hearts and Aberdeen game, so we'll talk more about these matches tomorrow once I've seen the matches. But in terms of Falkirk, was that what you expected of Falkirk?
I think it was. There was a good question that I think the BBC asked at half time about do you think Falkirk will adapt the style? And I think they will at some points, but when you're playing a home game against the likes of Dundee United and any of the teams around that level, I'm glad to see the fast-flowing football. They weren't holding back, they weren't sitting in a really defensive shape, trying to let Dundee United come onto them. They were getting at a real go. It's nice to see. I really liked Ross. I think his first name Ethan Ross. I really liked him. I think he's a good player. I think he can be good this season. So there's a couple of good positives in the game. Max Waters impressed me, because I know a guy that supports Barnsley, and he had some very critical words when I showed him that he signed for Dundee United. So it was nice to see him go on the score sheet as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think Falkirk I think John McGlynn's a great manager. I know he's won back-to-back PFA Manager of the Years and the back-to-back promotions, but I was actually at 2 Falkirk games last season. One was against Celtic in the Premier Sports Cup, where they played brilliant against Celtic. I think it finished 5-2 to Celtic, but they led twice. And they played that same style. They played out from the back. They tried to play the sort of, what would you call it, flashy football or whatever you want to call it. I know some people don't like it. They just want to play the traditional way, but I like seeing teams come to Celtic Park and try and play their stuff, and they did that, and it was really.
If I can just say on that point quickly before you get the other game, I agree with you. I enjoyed seeing it at Celtic Park. This season, though, when they're going to away runs, they need to be careful, because the last thing you want to be doing in the league is shipping 5 goals to Celtic and 4 goals here, 4 goals there, you know what I mean? So, of course, there's positives to take. They did lead twice, and I thought they played some good stuff, but it's maybe something McGlynn will need to be careful again into the actual season.
Yeah, and I was just going to say the other game I was at was a completely different game, because it was in the Scottish Cup against East Kilbride, and the East Kilbride Celtic, completely different ends of the football pyramid, and they played a completely different way, and not in the sense of trying to dominate the ball and stuff like that. They noticed East Kilbride had a really high line and kept playing long balls in behind to try and exploit that. I think they had Agaman and Miller playing, who are obviously 2 pacey wingers. So I think John McGlynn's really adaptable. He'll see what he's playing against. He'll know what he's playing against, and he'll try and set up his team to play best. And I think that'll give Falkirk a really good chance of staying up, first of all, this season, because you do need to remember they are a promoted team. But having a really good season. I think staying up is where they'll be looking first.
Yeah, we'll try and stay on for about another 10 minutes, because I know we're going to be on for the match tomorrow. We'll talk more in detail about these matches. But in terms of the other game, Robbie, Dundee 1, David Gray's Highbury 2.
Aye, I made the joke in the WhatsApp group earlier on about could Dundee pull it back. I mean, they got one back, but obviously it wasn't enough. I mean, look, that's a good win for him. There would have been a lot of expectation on him after getting knocked out against Midtjylland, and a lot of people going, "Oh, you're going to Dundee, the place where it seems all negative and all going one way now, with that new manager on the door, and the fans reacting to that." So I feel like a lot of people will maybe try to put pressure on Hibs, in the sense that they're putting pressure on them to go out and dominate and win the game. And obviously when you're 2-0 up, I'm sitting there looking at my phone going, this could be a cricket score against Dundee. Obviously they get one back, but it's the job done for Hibs. I think they needed to win. I'm delighted for Kieran Bowie, who looks like he could be a good player this year as well. But I suppose the bigger question...
See, in terms of him, do you think he could be in the Scotland squad? Because I don't think we've got a great choice of strikers, and I think he could potentially be one.
I mean, it just takes one of these guys like Kieran Bowie to score a few goals and have a bit of consistency, and he finds himself in the squad, because, as you said, there's no many options in that team. But if somebody like Kieran Bowie can grab that shot and grab that chance, then I'm all for it. But I suppose the bigger question coming out of that game, guys, is Dundee. Obviously gone too good, pulling one back quite quickly. But I don't think Dundee fans seem, by what I've seen a bit of online, they don't seem too impressed so far with Presley.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, the stats from the game, and I know Stephen Presley's made the point. I think that they need 6 new signings, and I would agree. I think the squad is very undercooked. I don't think there's enough quality there for Presley to work with, in all fairness. So I understand the Presley criticism, because some of the stuff he's said is just mind-boggling. And obviously it was a strange appointment initially, but I think they need more quality in that squad. And just looking at the stats today, they had 2 shots, 1 on target, 0.14 expected goals. So, I mean, they were lucky to even get a goal. They were so second best all game to Hibs, and that would be expected. But you want to see at least a little bit of fight, a little bit of chance creation, and they just never had that. And you just didn't expect them to, because their squad is just miles behind at the moment.
Yeah,
I was just going to say quickly, sorry, if he's only hitting 2 shots against Hibs and he's travelling away to Ibrox next week, I'll worry for what the stats could look like after that game.
Yeah, and it's a perfect match for Russell Martin, because that's what you want after a European game. If Rangers are playing on Tuesday night against Pilsen, and you don't know what the score's going to be there. But in terms of that, Robbie, I just feel like maybe they tried something different with Stephen Presley. But I'm not writing the guy off too early. But I'm saying, I said on Friday before the ball was kicked that I would have kept Tony Dock?
Look, I try to be as honest as possible. I'm writing them off already. I cannot see Presley surviving another 5 or 6 games. Honestly, I can't. Nothing that he's done so far, not even the signings, fill me with confidence that he can at least get something. Setting up in the way they did, I'm looking here and it looks like it was a 5-3-2. I can only imagine, I've not seen the highlights yet, but I can only imagine what the system was like and the way they actually played in the game. This is an appointment that I just could not see working since it was announced, and there has some decent players in there. Like, it's no all doom and gloom in that squad. Obviously, one big player that missed the game was Simon Murray. I think he's getting a slight knee knot, which I don't know how serious that is. But look, I just don't see this working. And I know we're speaking to Stuart on Friday, and you've got to remain as positive as possible. But there must have been some boos or some words said by the Dundee fans after that game. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie, we'll probably move on to the game that was yesterday. It was
Sorry. I just wanted to make a last point on Kieran Bowie. I'm a really big fan of Kieran Bowie. I think he's an absolutely brilliant player. And I actually had him down as my most improved player this season. So, yeah, I'm hoping that he pulls through. And I think, to answer the Scotland question, I definitely think he could be in the fold soon. I think he's got everything you want from a striker. He's tall, he's physical, he can pin defenders, he's fast. And I don't think he'll be at Hibs for long. I think he's got so much talent, and I think he'll be gone at the end of the season, to be honest. I think he's that good. I know he didn't maybe have the best season last season, but he had to suffer that big injury. So, yeah, I think Kieran Bowie can go right to the top. I really do believe that.
I hope the fans of Hibs are not watching, because if they put off there, you just said he's going to leave the club. So.
No, I think they'll get a massive fee for him. I just think he's that good. And fingers crossed he doesn't have the same sort of injury problems he did last season. But yeah, I think he's just got everything you want from a striker. And look, he's keeping the record transfer fee striker out of the team. So that obviously shows that how good he is and how much he means to David Gray and that Hibs team.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie, we'll move on to the big game of the weekend, the one that was dressed up as El Plastico. I mean, we'll move on to that. Robbie, what did you make of the game?
It was one I said on Friday. I was actually quite looking forward to it. I am so... There's just so many things in this game I loved. First of all, that Kelly front two is absolutely massive to both of them. I loved watching Marcus Dackers running about that pitch. It was absolutely brilliant. I did get to watch some of the game. I didn't get to see it all, but I did watch the highlights back. It was a really open game, actually. I think we'll obviously be positives, especially on the Kelly side that they can take. Until the card, they look quite comfortable, and obviously Livingston then built their way back into it. But that's positives Kelly fans could take. I thought it was nice football by Kettlewell. I thought David Watson looked back to his edges himself, by the way. That was something that maybe last season for the second half, especially, we maybe didn't see for David Watson, didn't take him up. He looks back now. That Daniel's up front as well. He opened the account. I thought that was a nice goal for him. And I suppose on the Livingston side as well, they showed resilience. I worried when they went 2-0 down that they wouldn't pull it back, and it was maybe going to be another horrible season in the Premiership for Martindale's men, but they done well. Scott Pittman, I thought he looked a real player as well. So I suppose there's positives you can take for both sides.
And I've got to say, Robbie's talking about positives. The positives was the very first VAR decision that he made of the season for the sending off of the Kilmarnock player. That was a great decision. So they've started off the season very well in VAR.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard a lot of Kilmarnock fans complaining about it. So I'll have to see it.
I thought it was a nail on red card. But
I think they were complaining that Muirhead, I think, had a grip of Stanger's shirt as he obviously pulled Muirhead down for the penalty.
Yeah.
But I managed to catch the first half of this game. And I think at half time, 2-0 to Kelly was a really harsh scoreline on Livingston, because Livingston had a lot of the play and they didn't really create any chances, but Kilmarnock only really created the two that they scored. And it was a really well taken finish from Daniels. I think it takes a deflection to to help it over the keeper, and it was who was it? It was Liam Polworth that won the ball high up, and then he sort of played it through. And then the second goal was the same. Come on at Preston Livingston. Jamie Brandon wins it on the right hand side. He crosses it. Jerome Pryor, the Livingston goalkeeper, makes a bit of a hash of it, and then Watson's in there, and they get 2 quick fire goals before half time. Then obviously I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of the highlights from the second half, but no, brilliant from Livingston. I know Kelly obviously get that red card, but it's not always easy to play against 10 men, and they get the 2 goals and get a really good point. And yeah, all the teams seem to have that's what I'm saying. All the teams seem to have a style of play they want, maybe apart from Dundee. All the teams seem to have a style of play they want to play. They've got quality. They've obviously brought in a lot of new signings, and yeah, I think the league's shaping up to be really entertaining. And then we've obviously got the big match of the weekend tomorrow night, and I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and we'll be here live. Subscribe to the Scottish Football Zone YouTube channel. We've also got Graham on as well, a big Jambo, so make sure you subscribe.
He's going to sing the Queen song. I'm going to make him sing the Queen song in the first 10 minutes.
Hopefully that will bring up the subscribers. Everybody else will be turning off their TVs. They'll be smashing up their TVs in Scotland.
Sorry, can I just mention one thing in this game that I don't know if you guys have seen it online. One player in the Livingston squad that's been getting quite a bit of stick the last day was Montgomery, who's on loan, I believe, for Celtic. Yes. I don't know why. On the highlights, you don't see much of him, but for what I heard in the sort of full game, it didn't impress a lot of Livingston fans.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say sorry. Just to sort of add on that, I thought he actually started the game pretty well from what I've seen. He was making on the ball. He was quite positive. He was making good runs, good passing with his teammates. But I think he maybe was sort of at fault for. He was probably at fault for the second goal. Jamie Brandon kind of nicks the ball off him. I'll have to see it back. But yeah, I think it's probably quite harsh. But obviously we'll see if David Martindale sticks with him for next week. I don't know. I can't remember who Livingston have got. I think it might be. Is it Falkirk they've got next week? I think it might be. I'll have to check that. But yeah, it's quite hard. It's harsh criticism, but that's what football's like nowadays. Yeah, so there's a chance to prove himself and see if he's still in the picture for the Livingston fans and David Martindale.
Oh, I think all in all, it's been a great first weekend, guys. It
has, and we didn't even touch on the Championship, where there was some brilliant results in that as well, especially St Johnstone putting 5 past Partick Thistle.
Yes, Robbie, that was a great result, especially Partick Thistle going 1-0 up.
Aye, I mean, I was listening to Wilson's post-match reaction after the game, and I think, from what I heard, they were quite lucky to go 1-0 up as well. Even I don't know if you saw much about what happened, but I don't know if you've seen Graham. What's his name?
Mark?
No, the free kick that St Johnstone scored, the 5th one.
Is it Stevie Mallon, is it?
Aye, Stevie Mallon, I think it's some free kick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think St Johnstone will absolutely cakewalk that league. I think they're just too good at it. I don't want to claim I'm a genius or whatever, but I did predict them to Vallecari to smoothly take them up. And I know it's only one game, but Partick Thistle are one of the best teams in that league off of last season. I know they've lost obviously their main man in Brian Graham, who made his his premiership debut for Falkirk today. But yeah, 5-1 against them is a real statement.
But just one thing that I don't know about you, but I think managers should wear specific things. So to see Mark Wilson after the game wearing a Partick Thistle actual tap, like it was wearing one of their shirts, one of their playing shirts, I was a bit like, well, what are you doing? Managers should be wearing like shirt and ties and stuff like that, but it was in the actual Partick Thistle shirt. Yeah,
maybe that's why the karma came in for beat 5-1. Yeah, because that is out of order. I would agree with that.
Just to actually ask you quickly, even before we wrap things up, on back to the Celtics Mun game. One thing I don't know if you've mentioned, the goal that got disallowed. What did they
I've seen it. I was at the game, so I've seen it on the big screens. I didn't see obviously the VR replay because that would be so silly to show you what the referees are looking at. How dare they? But when the goal went in, I saw the replay and I went, "Is that handball?" Because obviously I seen it, I think it bounced off McGregor twice before he kind of went down and he struck it. The second one I think was off his shoulder, but I think it hit off his elbow maybe. But I haven't seen it. I have to see it back to really properly see it. But yeah, I hopefully when I watch back all the highlights across the games this week, there hasn't been any howlers because that would be a bad start for the SFA. But yeah, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, if it did matter, then it would obviously be a massive talking point.
Aye, I think it will be. I suppose we'll need to wait and see what Colin says about it next month at some point. But I would wrap things up. Unfortunately, I'm not the host of this stream, so I do not have powers to end this even. So I'm sort of hoping Reegan's maybe still here somewhere so we can actually end the stream.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
we'll just keep talking about Scottish football. There is always something to talk about.
I seen Ross County chucked a 2-goal lead against.
Yeah, they did. Against the Airdrieonians. So I actually fancy Airdrie to do decently well this season. I think they'll be up towards the upper half of that league. I know last season they had a terrible campaign, but a lot of it was down to injuries, and the season before they were really good. So yeah, I fancy Airdrie to have a good season. But the surprising one at the weekend of the Championship for me was Ayr United. I didn't get to watch the game, but from what I've seen and heard, they looked really poor against Arbroath and were lucky to take a point, even though Arbroath obviously got the late equaliser.
They did in the first 20 minutes as well. They looked really good, and obviously I got to see them against us last week, and they looked a real good threat in the second half. Obviously, in that championship game, they started off really well. It was Jamie Murphy with a brilliant finish, by the way.
Yeah.
But after that, Arbroath just kind of took a liking to the game. I think one thing I will note, by the way, was how bad that pitch actually was. I did think for the opening game of the season, the pitch could have looked a bit better, but Arbroath just took it straight. I thought they looked really good. Both sort of off. Obviously, Todorov gets the late goal. I think, to be honest, if we're being honest, Arbroath probably should have won the game in the end. But it's no. Don't think it's a start Scott Brown would have wanted, considering how he ended the League Cup group stage with a pretty strong second half against us.
Yeah, and they'll be expecting to get promoted this season. I know Ross County and St Johnstone, obviously the favourites as the relegated teams, but Ayr United, after last season being the best team to miss out on promotion, they'll expect to be there or thereabouts. And in League One, Alloa win again, 5 wins from 5. Can they do an invincible seat? Can they do a Falkirk? Back-to-back promotions from League One. Maybe Hamilton won as well, which was not surprising, but yeah, they've had a really difficult time of it recently. So it was nice to see that they started things off with a win.
Aye, fair play to them. I do hope they survive, because I think if they go into League Two, it's maybe just might be the end for Hamilton. I fear as a club.
Yeah, possibly. And it's so weird. The leagues are so weird. League 1 and 2, it's all, well, League 1 especially, it's all teams that are either big clubs in the past that are in trouble with points and whatever, or, I mean, Inverness, like, I think they'll go right to the top of League 1. I think they'll be one of the contenders, and obviously they've struggled, and yeah, it's so strange.
I'll tell you what, though, the biggest shock I think genuinely did come in League Two. Obviously everybody pre-season bigged up East Kilbride and how big a season they could have, and losing 3-1 at home to Spartans is probably not the best start they could have hoped for.
No, definitely not. Yeah, big talk coming out of East Kilbride. They back themselves, and fair enough. But yeah, not a good start. My local team, Dumbarton, I'm hoping they can get promoted back to League One. They obviously started with winning ways, so I'm happy with that.
They've got a sitting player in there somewhere. I can't remember who it is, but I know they have that partnership with Dumbarton now, which is quite cool. So
Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that the partnerships being announced across the league,
I,
across the leagues.
I think it is no like United and Celtic, which of course was
Yeah.
talking about cards. That's obviously going to be the link.
Yeah.
But Clyde, obviously, Clyde are another one that used to be pretty decently high up, I'm sure, in the leagues. See them down in League Two now as well. I mean, it's just weird that some of the teams you see. I mean, even going to the Highland League, but I believe started this weekend as well. You get Reegan in there, who obviously used to be in the football leagues as well. Brother Rangers, they are a pretty big name. Fraserburgh, obviously, played Rangers that one time. That's how you know them. Albion Rovers, they lost 4-0 to start off there. I think it's the league. So either teams scared all over the place. Reegan's still no returned yet. I don't quite know what's happened. Oh, he's
Oh,
back.
here he is. He's just going to leave us to talk about Scottish
Hello.
football forever.
Hello, Robbie. How you doing?
Hello. We thought we were going to be left all night to talk about the games there.
No. I'm here. I'm back. I'm back again. Yeah, guys. So that was a great first show. We are back again tomorrow. What time are we on, Robbie?
We're on at 6 o'clock tomorrow before the Hearts Aberdeen game. I think Graham's joining us for that one. It might just be after the game. I'm not too sure. But I know he's definitely joining us at 10 o'clock after the game. So
Yeah, I mean, we should probably touch on that game just before we go. I mean, it's going to be a cracker, Robbie. It's going to be great.
yeah, if we do not hear that Claudio Braga chant for the first 30 minutes, Hearts fans are doing it wrong, because that's all I want to hear at this game. I'm actually just taking the chant away. I'm so excited to watch him play for the pre-season that he's had and the stuff that I've seen. He looks like he's going to be a real exciting player. And it's interesting to me, right, because I'm listening to fans and other places on this podcast that when I was seeing predictions and people are saying Aberdeen were going to have a good season, this and that. All I've seen this weekend is people writing Aberdeen to get beat like 3 or 4-0 off of Hearts, and I'm like, you've just put them on to have a good season, but you're putting them on to get smashed in this game. I mean, we'll need to see how it goes. I think we'll learn a lot about obviously Derek McInnes and the way he's going to set up this season, and obviously if Hearts win, you can imagine the Aberdeen fans will not be too happy with him, but it should be a really entertaining game, I think.
Yeah, and see, it's about there's many sort of races across the league, I think, and obviously the top two will battle it out for the league title. You would imagine, in case unless there's a spectacular rise by one of the other teams to sort of disrupt that. And Celtic obviously take an early lead in that race, and it doesn't mean anything in the context of a title this early, but the mentality that Celtic will take from just being ahead of Rangers, the mentality Aberdeen or Hearts can take from beating one of the other teams on the first day, and already knowing that Hibs, of course, are sitting pretty. They're top of the league, Hibs, at the moment. Yeah, so no, it's a massive game. I know it's cliche, but it feels like a 6-pointer already between they two to really put an early marker down, because we talk about Hearts. A lot of people have got Hearts for third place because of the no European football. What is it?
I'm saying me included.
Yeah, me included as well, actually. Yeah, a lot of people, because of the lack of European football, and we've seen it. But Aberdeen haven't started European football yet, so they can get a massive result to kick off their season, and yeah, it'll be massive for either team, and hopefully we get a really good game. Although I'm really excited to see Claudio Braga as well, not just because of that amazing chant, but he has looked really good. And
one player I fear for on the Aberdeen side is Graham Shinney. I think he's a really smart player, but I just worry that his legs might not be able to cope with some of these Hearts attackers. I mean, Graham Shinney is, he's a smart player. He's technical. He knows what he's doing. He's an all-rounded general player, but he's now coming up against some of these wingers that Hearts have got where they're just going to have the pace advantage on them. It's that simple. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he copes with it.
Yeah, it's going to be really good, and I think they've got really good options this year, Hearts. Something they didn't have last year, so I'm looking forward to it, Robbie, and I'm looking forward to hear what Graham says, because he's always positive towards Hearts as well. So, no, thank you for joining us, guys, for the very first show, and make sure you subscribe, Robbie.
I definitely subscribe, hit the like button, comment your predictions for the season. We'll still, let us know who you think's going to win what. is Stephen Robinson's men going to fight back a treble? Who knows? We'll just need to wait and see. But definitely, here's your predictions. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock, which probably could be a couple of good shows.
Okay, guys, we'll see you 6 o'clock tomorrow, and thank you for joining us on the first episode of the Scottish Football Zone.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions